Yeager is an amazing character. He's the sort of character that has everything a great main character needs: a great design, interesting ideals, and an impact that is widely spread across the story of Attack on Titan. Unfortunately, some people don't see this and mark him off as the edgy, genocidal maniac that has no feelings whatsoever. Ever since the time skip had happened, people have been thinking this. This vision of Eren is one created from the fans and is nothing like the Eren Yeager in the current story. But how did Eren go from a naive and reckless person to a strategic and serious leader who spouts his ideals of freedom wherever he goes? Realization is the key to Eren's growth. Realization is the key to many things in Attack on Titan's world as well, with the people in the walls growing their island from getting information from other nations, and Marleans such as Gabi and Falco realizing that the Eldians on the island are no monsters or demons they thought they were. Realization brought Eren to move forward, and while he does continue on, he knows that the world is not just filled with his enemies, but innocent people as well. When knowing that humanity had existed outside of the walls, he was disappointed, as he knew the results that would happen to all of them. But even knowing that, he still believes that he could be the freest person in the world, taking part in his rumbling plan, and not going ahead with either Zeke's or the Alliance's plans as well. Eren actually thought that Zeke's plan could actually save many more people, with the Eldians able to vanish in time and the Titans along with them. But those Eldians aren't the ones Marleans had fought years ago. They are his loved ones, and ones that he had sought out to protect, and with that he can't accept an ending like that. He cares about his friends a lot, and wants them to live long lives, as he had said in chapter 108. But even caring about his friends that much, he values his freedom as well, so knowing that they would despise his plan of the rumbling, he still would have to keep moving forward despite his friends having to go and try to stop him from completing his plan. Eren's early environment is vastly different than other characters such as Levi's or Zeke's. He had a quiet, comfortable lifestyle at the start of his life. He had parents, a friend, and a home to go back to. Given these assets, it's strange to know that Eren had been angry, ruthless, and actually really violent. We've seen this while witnessing Mikasa's backstory, with Eren violently killing 2 people and continuously stabbing one of them in rage. Did this rage develop from his environment, or actually within his mind? Well, Eren had always felt like he was trapped inside of a birdcage, trapped like an animal within the walls. Those miserable walls had always stood out towards him every single day, reminding him of the cruel world he is living in, that stops him from going to see what's over the other side of the walls, stopping him from getting a sense of freedom. He had hated this. He was in a world that restrains him from getting the privilege of seeing the flaming waters, frozen plains, and snowfields of sand that Armin had always told him about. He had hated this. He was born into this world, and if he was born into this world, he was sure to be able to have the will to achieve that freedom he had wanted. If he was born into this world, he gets the privilege of acquiring that goal. If someone was to try to take that sense of freedom away from him, he wouldn't ever hesitate to take away theirs. We see this in Mikasa's backstory, and now we see this again with the rumbling, as the world had wanted to destroy Paradis and all of his loved ones. So it wasn't Eren's environment that had made him into who he was. This is just like Reiner. Reiner wasn't turned into who he was from the Marlean environment. It was he who had wanted to be the hero himself, and that is why he had continued on with the mission after Marcel had been eaten. The parallels of Eren and Reiner is something I'd like to talk about in a future video, because they both share some similar traits and both are just generally amazing characters. Back to the topic of Eren's mindset driving himself to become who he is today. But it is not just Eren that his mindset had affected. It was a lot more people such as Mikasa, Jan, and all of the Yeagerists, and some of the Survey Corps in Season 1 as well. Eren is able to convince them all to fight for themselves and freedom. He had helped Mikasa come to her Aquaman senses. He played a small part into making Jan join the Survey Corps, but unintentionally. And of course he had helped the Yeagerists fight for their island's future. So what emotional state has Eren been in for a while? People always cross him off as the edgy and devil kind of guy, but that's only because they don't understand what he's been through in these years. He had seen his mother be eaten by a titan at a young age, only increasing his hatred for the monsters. Annie then betrays him, and as he tries to transform, he can't really accept what has happened, halting his transformation process. A comrade and a fellow human had just said that they were his enemy, and of course Eren couldn't accept that, as his hatred for the Titans has been absolute for a while at the current time. He just couldn't accept fighting a comrade. Shortly after, he comes to his senses with remembering what situations Annie's Titan had caused towards his other comrades, specifically Levi's squad, making him be able to have the will to actually kill her. Later, Reiner and Bertholdt betray him as well. This time though, he accepts their betrayal really quickly, but as he does this, it was all in anger as he couldn't believe his enemies were that close to him. The next time he is hit very emotionally is in the Uprising arc, with him finding out his father was the one who had killed Historia's family and took the Founding Titan, while also realizing he was the one who had killed Grisha. This of course had to hit Eren severely. His father was responsible for the Founding Titan to get out of the royal family's hands, and he had also eaten his father. Fortunately, his story does tell Eren that all of the royal stuff was not for the people but only for themselves. The next big thing to severely hit Eren emotionally is something that did change Eren's attitude for the future of the story, not his ideals though. The basement reveal, plus after that, him kissing Historia's hand to see future memories of the rumbling. Eren seeing his future memories basically served as him having no other plan to combat his new enemies, being the world, and as he does try to find another way, it all comes crumbling down once everything else he tries fails, like we saw in chapter 123 in the flashback. He also begins to see his future memories becoming more real, with him seeing the kid that he saw within his future memories, and also tells him he's sorry for what the future holds. Eren's true emotions come out in this scene and it shows it. He was disappointed in knowing humanity had existed outside of the walls, and he wished for it to all wipe away. He continues to keep repeating he is sorry in this very sad scene, and after this, it just reveals that Eren really isn't the evil, selfish person some people think he is. He has a heart, and sadly that heart isn't strongly swayed towards the people in the outside world, but towards his friends that he wanted to live long lives. But this does show that he has sympathy for the people he is killing. It's just a big price to pay for freedom. So this brings the question, is Eren really justified in his actions? Is he like a god to the current Eldians protecting them from any enemies, or is he the devil? Is he the one to put an end to the world outside of Paradise? I don't think Eren is entirely justified in his actions, but I do understand why he's doing it, and I somewhat like his plan the most. Maybe it's because I have been with him from the start of the series until now, and of course I would have a strong bias towards the main character of the story we're all reading. But it's a war, there is no bad or good. The innocents that are dying are sadly a part of the war, just like how normal battles are like. Innocents that are close to the damage of the two opposing forces are sadly affected by it. Also, both sides are protecting their people from a potential extinction of their race. Eren is protecting Paradise from the allied nations' attack on the island, while the nations are trying to permanently put an end of the Titans by killing all of Paradise. Eren just has a much upper hand of the battle and may seem like the bad guy from that. Eren himself doesn't entirely think he's a good person as well. As he had stated in chapter 131, he's even worse than a person like Reiner. Eren's rumbling plan is probably just morally wrong, but strategically good for his people and himself. Like I said before though, there is no bad or good in war, and generally in Attack on Titan. Everyone has their own reasons for what they're doing, and the world's influence pushes them forward to take part in their actions. It's just a cruel world of Attack on Titan that our characters face. Now let's talk about Eren's current relationships with the characters in the story. Mikasa and Armin are the right people we should be starting off with. So, Eren has obviously been distancing himself from his two closest friends. The reason why is clearly because of the rumbling, and if we go back to chapter 112, he really tries to throw them both away from him. He keeps telling them different assumptions on what they became, with him telling Armin that Armin is being controlled by Bertholdt, as he knows he has been going to see Annie. Also telling Armin how he changed from thinking of strategic ways to beat the enemy to just saying, let's talk. Eren obviously tries to go hard into convincing them that he doesn't need them by his side anymore, or in other words, he just can't have them on his side anymore. For Mikasa, he lies to her saying how she's only clinging to him because of her Ackerman instincts, which we know that isn't true, because Zeke had revealed to Eren that it's just love that makes Mikasa cling to Eren. Knowing this, Eren had to say that he had always hated Mikasa, which would finally try to push the one that clings to him the most away from him. It's quite sad to see Eren trying his hardest to sway them away from him, when he of course doesn't believe any words he is saying. His story is also another person who is close to him, as Eren had not accepted the Paradise officials' plans of using his story to breed royal children and continued the same practice her family had done before, with them continuing to eat their family members each time they get a titan. They were always going to make his story eat Zeke as well for that plan to happen, but since that would make his story's family not free, Eren couldn't accept the same thing to happen once again. Historia is also one of the people Eren had told his plans to, and it really looked like Eren had trusted her that much to tell her. Now, the relationship between the two Yeager brothers is something I didn't really expect to see too much of. When we first found out about Zeke being the son of Grisha Yeager and the half-brother of Eren, I was surprised yet ready to see how they will actually interact with each other, even though they were both on two opposing sides, Marley and Paradise. But with Zeke then revealing he is actually against Marley, I knew we would get to see some major interactions between the two of them. Even though Zeke and Eren are family though, Zeke had never understood Eren. He kept repeating to Eren that he does actually understand him and continuously says that Grisha had brainwashed him and it's now his duty to get rid of Grisha's influence from Eren's mind. But unfortunately for Zeke, Eren had always been the way he is and was never once brainwashed by his father. Even going through the memories, Zeke had begun to understand that Grisha was never the same man he was back in Marley. He had begun to understand that Grisha never chose himself over his son, and he had also begun to understand that Grisha had failed as an Eldian restorationist but succeeded in being a father, something Zeke never got from him in the first place. Knowing all of this, Zeke knew that he couldn't quote-unquote save Eren, as Eren had always been this way ever since he was born. This is a relationship of betrayals yet realization. Eren had found out about the past through Zeke, and Zeke found out that Eren was never on his side, but wanted to start up the rumbling, using him. The last relationship that has affected Eren that I want to talk about is his relationship with his father, Grisha Yeager. At the start of the series, Eren had always admired his father, while Grisha had always been supporting Eren as well. We can see Grisha having no objections to hearing about Eren wanting to join the Survey Corps, while also telling Eren that he'll show him what's inside the basement that he had never seen. Eren's admiration only increased from there, until Wall Maria is destroyed and the Titan attack happens, with Eren being separated from his father in some way. Us and Eren didn't know what had happened to Grisha for a long time, but he had one objective in his mind that was left from his father, the basement. It was his job to find out what the key that was left with him would open up, but only to find out before that about the actions his father had committed to the Reese family. From this, Eren had begun to dislike his father and never knew he would murder a family like that. Also, to add to that, he had found out that he was the one who aided his father to gain both the attack and the founding titans, making Eren realize he is only the hope of humanity due to his father's horrifying actions, which makes Eren want to be eaten by Historia so the Reese family can take back what was taken from them. But Eren's view towards his father would widely change from getting Grisha's memories of his time in Marley and afterwards. Eren would gain an understanding of his father's actions and not resent him that much anymore. But while appreciating Grisha's actions now, he still felt a gush of frustration from viewing his father's unwilling judgment on getting the founder from the Reese family. Eren had to then influence Grisha by giving him the memory of him talking about what he had come to do and also telling him it was he who had started the story, so there was no need for hesitation. With this, Eren had influenced his father in massacring the Reese family and gaining the founding titan in his grasp. Now, the ending of Eren Yeager's character is a bit of an interesting topic I want to talk about now. With the release of chapter 138 having come out and only one last chapter of this great story remains, it's a most talked about topic at the moment in the AOT community. In the chapter, we finally see Mikasa coming to the end of her character arc and finally being able to cut the person who had saved her. We had also seen the "See you later Eren" line in this chapter, covering up the speculations of when that line will come back in the story, again ever since chapter 1. For me, I think Eren's character ending hasn't concluded yet. His life might have, but his character still needs to conclude. His character arc needs to finish up in the story. He's the main character and the person we followed on from the start of the series, so of course we need to see Eren's last point of view in the last chapter of Attack on Titan. It could be his thoughts of his past actions or what he thinks about the end of his life. It could also be him giving his last final action of maybe freeing the Titan Shifters of the Curse of Ymir, saving Armin from a death he couldn't escape in the future. We just need something big on Eren in the last chapter, and if it gets executed beautifully, then we know the real story of Attack on Titan has come to a close, with the death of Eren Yeager and the freedom of the future generations.